Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of the Snickerdoodle Chronicles. I'm Shay Renee, your host, and today's episode is going to be called Finding Your Cookware. So, I know, right? All of these, I guess, analogies and puns, but since my background is hospitality and food, it's easier for me to relate those things to everyday life and to break it down. So let's dive in today. This is actually the official second episode, even though right now we have three because I did do a special episode. That's the way the cookie crumbles. So remember to like and go listen to the previous episodes. So this episode of the Snickerdoodle Chronicles, we're going to talk about cookware. Cookware is really just an analogy to say, what tools have you used throughout life to get through life? Tools, skills, instructions. I mean, I am a book reader. I think that everybody at some point was doing the whole how to book. So that was a big thing for me, was trying to look at books and see, okay, let me read this and research it and figure it out. I did the same thing with, being pregnant and in relationships and all those different kind of things. Even in work, what can a book tell me that I'm not doing so I can try to do it different? Didn't always work out the way that I thought it might, though. And that's okay, because that's life, right? It's a journey. So some things work, some things don't work. I often, though, find that a lot of things that have helped me have been when I heavily rely on the scripture or trusting myself. God didn't give us, intuition. He didn't give us brains. He didn't give us wisdom. He didn't give us experiences not to learn something from them. And that's, purely how I see things. So sometimes dealing with things going on in the forefront, you have to draw from something that happened in the background. I'll give an example. Again, I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. So some of the things that my 6-year-old does, even though he's a boy, I'm like, ugh, I remember trying to do this. Not necessarily at the age of 6, but I just remember the mindset. And me explaining to him, hey, Xander, I'm trying to teach you this route so that you don't have to go the painful route, or you don't have to learn it the way that mommy learned it, or you don't have to do this way, because sometimes the other route, the alternative, isn't so fun. And we don't want that for our children. We don't want that for anybody that we care about, right? But what's the saying that we can't save somebody from themselves, and you can't, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. So a lot of my experiences, unfortunately, I can joke about it now, is that I had to learn it the hard way. I never wanted to, I never was able to kind of learn it when my parents were doing the same thing, like saying, hey, you don't have to do it the hard way. We can do it this way. So, now one of my, I guess, items of cookware would be, wisdom. I don't want my son to go the hard route. Like, I don't want him to learn the hard route. Another piece of cookware for me would be my parents. I mean, I have parents who are so supportive, so nurturing, so concerned, involved, and maybe sometimes my delivery isn't good. My mom reminded me the other day that I was wrong. So therefore, I needed to apologize to Xander. And we need to draw on that. Like, we need to use that to our advantage. Um, Another piece of cookware I think I would have is I I can see the joy in things. That's another thing, a piece of wisdom that my mom has always said. In everything, find joy. In everything, be grateful. When you're going through some of the hardest things that you've ever faced, That sounds impossible, right? Because come on, like if you lost your job, you don't have any money, how can you find joy in that? But you're still alive. You still have the opportunity to find another job. Some people lose their job and then the next day they lose their lives. So it's not the most easy or conventional cookware, but it is important because when things are spiraling, when things are going downhill, when things are negative, come on, how easy is it to just be like, woe is me? That's so much easier than being like, oh, I'm going to get through this. Oh, I'm going to beat this. Oh, everything's going to be better. No. So, again, if you have these tools, if you think about these tools, the other thing with, counting things in joy is writing it down. Pros and cons, listing. I'm a list maker. If your day has been bad, count the things that were good. You woke up, you ate, you were healthy, you were in your right mind. Write the things that were bad. You got into an argument, you had a flat tire, you forgot your lunch money. Acknowledge those things. The only way through pain is to feel it. Another hard lesson I had to learn. So taking these coping skills, these cookware, taking them and using them every day, like you have to apply them. What good is a colander if every time you have pasta, you're trying to drain it with your hands? Right. So, and it's tough. Ugh, please let me be the first to tell you how tough it is. It is hard. You have to be intentional. You have to draw from strength that you didn't even know you had to draw from. I personally think that as a single mom, as a Black woman, as a educated woman, I feel sometimes that I'm not acknowledged in my strength. And I feel like sometimes my strength is sometimes seen as something that comes naturally. And I feel like sometimes the acknowledgement of I don't want to have to be so strong all the time is overlooked. And it happens to the best of us. But what gets me through is, again, you have to acknowledge those feelings. Another piece of cookware that's important with that is a tribe. You have to have a village. You have to have people who, when you are in those moments where you can't draw on your own strength, they have something to pour into you. Crazy important. I had a conversation with a friend and I was just like, I sit here and I try to give and I try to provide and I try to support and I try to extend myself in all these different areas. And then I'm still required to do the basics of cooking, cleaning, taking care of home, taking care of children, taking care of myself. And I told her just frankly, sometimes I don't want to do it. Not that I don't want to do life because I don't want anyone panicking. I'm not going to unalive myself. But think about that. Think about how much people who are in the position of raising children full time by themselves have to rely on inward strength. It's isolating. It's very almost alienating because I have anxiety. I think we've talked about that before. So in my eyes, I think that everybody's looking at me and I think that everybody sees me struggling or I think that I have a label on me. And none of that's true. But then I have that fear and that hindrance. We talked about fear that stops me from asking for help. Oh God, she's asking for help again. Oh God, she's complaining again. Oh, why won't she stop? All these things start to flood. So I have to get a tool, right? I have to get a piece of cookware. And my village is one of those main pieces of cookware because sometimes I need some encouragement. Sometimes I just need to hear you're doing a good job. You're doing the best that you can. Keep up the good work. kindness, positivity, encouragement, support are free. They're free. They cost nothing. And you have no idea how you could change someone's life, how you could take someone off the edge of a ledge, take them from that precipice of giving up. And that's what's so important. I want the message to always be understood that in our life, it gets hectic, it gets chaotic, but we also have joy that can be chaotic. We have amazing times that can be hectic, right? And we still need people. In your joy, who wants to celebrate by themselves? I mean, I know people say, oh, it's a party of one, but who really wants to celebrate by themselves? Who wants to cry by themselves? You know? Think of all these things, all these layers of things. And where have you put yourself? Like, where have you individually been? Where you had to get some cookware? Have you been in a situation where you weren't sure what the next step might be? So, say you're getting a promotion or thinking about changing jobs, and you might be changing career fields. Don't you reach out to people to kind of see, okay, what's the expectation, what the salary expectation, or maybe you reach out to a life coach or, someone who's guiding you and say, hey, I'm thinking of make this choice, cookware. Or if you are a mom, a dad, and the kiddos are going to start an activity, gymnastics or cheerleading or football or softball, rugby, whatever the case may be. Don't you look at different programs and research to find out, hey, what's the most economic for our family? Who has the best ratings? Again, researching is cookware. These tools help us so that when we're making a decision, we're making the best decision. Because ultimately the decision affects our long term, right? So, okay. So we've talked about researching, we've talked about a village, we've talked about like wisdom. And wisdom comes from God, right? So 36-year-old, I don't always think that I'm so wise, but sometimes my son can say something at 6 years old, and I think he's the wisest human on the face of the planet. That's weird, right? So God imparts wisdom on us. We have situations in our lives, and do we have the capacity to make that decision? Of course. Where's it come from? God. So, but we think of wisdom is like, oh, gray hair, like been around for a long time. So, but think of the lessons that you've learned. That's where you're getting this wisdom from. I was in a situation and saw somebody that, one, why am I seeing this person? Two, never actually talked to the person. Three, used to want to drag the person. And four, why did I want to drag him if I didn't know him? See? So you fast forward to, 8 years forward, and it's water off a duck's back. Like there was nothing there. Like that's the wisdom of it, that it was foolish. I never knew the person in the first place. So why would I even have this animosity? Because when we're around people who fill us up with negativity or controversy and things like that, we get hype, right? We get like, oh, I'm gonna do this. Like I'm the baddest. I'm this, I'm that. Now I don't want to be the baddest. I don't want to do this or that. I just want to go out. If I'm going to go out, have a good time, and then come home and be safe. So now the wisdom I have is that make your own decisions about a person. Like get to know a person before you're ready to drag them. You know, that was a character flaw on my side that I've acknowledged, and hopefully it's gone. Because I can only speak on the right now. All right, so Other ways of using these tools, what are we exemplifying for our children? What example are we setting? So I always want to make sure that my kids are problem solvers. Now, again, they're 6 and 3, but hey, mom, I can't find this. Okay, we'll look for it. Oh, but I can't find it. Okay, but did you look for it? That's the battle, right? So now I want them to be in the mindset of, okay, I looked A, B, and C, mom. I didn't find it. So then you introduce a question. That's another piece of cookware. Where was the last place you had it? Then you see the gears turning. Oh. And I have to use that. I have to use that too. Because, okay, I'm having a problem. I'm triggered by something. Because we get triggered by things that have happened. But you have to start thinking, because our triggers are our responsibility, okay? I have to start thinking, why am I triggered by this? And because I'm triggered by this, what is my reaction going to be? Oh, that's difficult. I have to be mindful. Okay. That is a piece of cookware that I want to harness. Being mindful and being patient. When I'm triggered, when anybody's triggered, the first thing we want to do, it hits fight or flight mode. So, are we going to immediately exit stage left? Are we going to panic? That's what our body wants to do. It's a natural response. Or are we going to go for it head on? And I'm not talking about go for it head on and solve it. I'm talking about go for it head on and kind of, stir the pot a little bit. That's the fight mode. But if we keep in mind that our triggers are our responsibility, if we keep in mind that something comes up that we weren't expecting, that we weren't prepared for, we draw on other pieces of cookware. I do not like people who do not know me using my whole name. It's a dumb trigger, but it's a trigger. It bothers me just because I feel it's very personal and intrusive, just being honest. So a lot of times when people who did know me would find out my name is Shay Renee and they would want to say that, I would just kind of ignore them or be nasty about it. And be like, you don't know me. Don't call me that. Not needed, right? I know it's extra. We're being transparent here. So now, okay, at the store, have to get my driver's license because I got Sudafed. No, I got Dayquil. But now you have to, anyway, so cashier's like, oh, Shay Renee. Don't you know your name rhymes? Yeah. I said, yeah. Oh my goodness. Just going on and on about it. And again, this is a line at a grocery store, so it should be going fairly quickly, right? Every part of me wanted to just shut it down. But I don't know what kind of day that lady was having. I don't know if her seeing my name and thinking it was kind of a cute name or funny name or whatever she thought it was, because she was grinning and enjoying saying Shay Renee and talking about it. Maybe that upped her psyche, right? It was my trigger. It was my responsibility. I have to co-parent, right? And a lot of times I feel the burden's 100% on me. And that triggers me when the other parent says something to me about my doings or whatever I'm doing for the children. And so, oh, I used to go in. I mean, I used to have a paragraph, like, what is it? Twitter fingers were heavy. Like, but now, again, because my triggers are my responsibility. If I stay at zero, there can't be a conflict. There can't, if I don't engage you, there can't be a conflict. And as tough as it is, what's better for my children? So yeah, so when we have these opportunities to use the skills that we have, the tools that we have to use them. I'm not saying it's going to happen every time because it doesn't happen every time. But when we can use them, we need to use them. It's so very important. It's important for the life that we want to live. It's important for the life that we want our children to live. It's important for our sanity, our mental health. Um, every person that we encounter, whether it be for 20 seconds or 20 years, you rub off on them. I think that if people understood that the more positivity that we spew out, the more that we act as God has designed us to act, the more we'll reach people. It doesn't matter, again, if it's for a lifetime or for a season. People are going to remember that. People are going to remember you no matter what you do, whether it's good, bad, in between. And people are going to have their own opinion. But what we do for ourselves is, do we rise above that? Or do we allow what other people's opinions say to affect us? And that's why I said I want one of my pieces of cookware to be patience. I want it to be a factor that, oh man, I was with Shay and server got really kind of nasty to her, but she just handled it with ease, with grace. Or the kids were out and the kids weren't sharing with them at the playground and they said that's okay and went and played with something else together. And then the kids that saw them being mean to them, they went and played with them instead because they realized bullying's not cool. If we take this approach and we use it, it can be full circle. It can be encompassed in every avenue of our lives. Um, we want our lifestyles to be a reflection of our character. And if I'm using certain things in daily life, it'll be natural. It says what? 21 days to build up a habit. So just try it. Try to make a list of cookware that you want. Patience, kindness. If you want to make an extra effort to be intentional, which I am trying to do this year, and I will continue into next year, because this episode, I realized, I got to get this episode out by November 2nd, since I said an episode a month. Um, and when you're feeling like you have so much to do, when you're feeling bogged down, but intentionality, consistency, that's what boasts results. Like that's what's going to get you to the finish line. So think about it. Make a list. For 2024, it's coming. Oh my goodness, November 2nd is almost here, right? What do you want to do? Like what pieces of cookware do you want to add to your pantry? Like you have your ingredients, right? Now we got to get some cookware. And what are we going to put in the pantry? Like I want to continue with being patient. I want to be able to be patient. I want to know that God is working in my favor every moment of every second of every day. And he doesn't need my help. That's the biggest thing. God does not need my help. I think that I'm helpful, and I think that I am an extremely willing person and participant. But God doesn't need any of that. So that's something I've had to learn also. I want to also make sure that as much as I give out, I'm pouring back into myself. And I'll give an example. So I work at a resource center. I find a lot of things in the community. So I make sure to try to share them with those that I think could use it. Even with just the general public, I want to share it What good is a blessing if you can't bless others, you know? I mean, I have been frustrated at times because it's like when I'm looking for the same stuff, like looking for assistance or looking for a resource, it seems I hit a wall. Hmm. So, what does that do to me? Well, to be honest, sometimes it's made me want to stop doing it. I'm human. It's made me just be like, if no one, if I can't get the help that I put out, why should I give out help? Whoa. And that's not the golden rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. The golden rule isn't do this, give this, and I have to give it back to you. That's not it at all. So, in those moments again, I have to push back. I have to pull Shay Renee back in and say, you're not doing this to get acknowledgement. You're not doing this to have people do it back for you. You're doing it because, again, if people need this information, if people need this assistance, if people need this help, be that. Tough. It's tough. It is. It's tough. And it's rewarding. I think that's the best way to put it. It's tough and it's rewarding because if I can make sure that one person has something that they've been looking for, they've been needing, that they've been fighting for, whew, I've done my job. Because again, if my true intention in life is to use up all the gifts that God gave me by the time it's time to meet him, then I can't sit here and hold on to saying, I want to use up the gifts that he gave me, but I want someone else to pour back into me the same gifts. Because might not be their gift. Like that might not be other people's gift. That may not be their thing. Whew. So that's an important thing that I've had to face, and I've had to keep intentionally in the forefront of my mind to make sure that I'm doing things for the right reasons. I also think that it's so important that when this new season, obviously this new year comes and everybody's making resolutions, right? I think it's important that people remember that a resolution, like you're making a resolution, you're saying, hey, I'm going to turn over a new leaf and I'm going to do this thing. Don't make it so grandiose that it's unobtainable. Make your resolution something that you can do. You know, we see these resolutions every single year. I'm going to run 1,000 miles in the gym. I'm going to eat only leaves and water. I'm going to, you know, pump your brakes. Like, let's do something that's easy. And if you want to do, I mean, and if running 1,000 miles is attainable, then do it. Absolutely. But if you're new to this, don't feel pressured. Everyone's journey, everyone's level of do, everybody's level of cookware is not the same. I can't personally think of any resolutions other than, like I said, being intentional and being patient right now because I have a whole lot of other projects in the mix. I do plan on staying intentional through the end of 2023. And I do plan on staying patient through the end of 2023 and that carrying over. But I've had to humble myself and remember, it's me. It's one person. And the things that I can do, I'll do. Everything else, I got to let it go. But remember that self-care is a cookware. If you are tired, rest. If you feel stressed out and need to talk to somebody, talk to somebody. Don't ever feel this burning need to overexert. And by that, I'm saying that you have got the opportunity to do A, B, and C, which may be travel and blog and shop. I don't know. Everything in moderation. If your publisher says you have to write your book in 90 days, pace yourself. The amount of pressure that you're going to feel and the amount of pressure that you're under, the devil's ready to exploit that. He's ready to take any level of anxiety, fear, angst, all of that, and multiply it. So that's why it's so important to be intentional. If you want to combat that, like if you want to push back on that, then again, that's why you have to be intentional, and that's why you have to set limits. I am going to do this for an hour, and then I'll rest for 30 minutes. And then I'll do another 2 hours, and then that's it for the day. Because 3 hours, like whatever project you're doing, 3 hours, I know it seems out of 24 may not be a lot, but think about the other things that your day encompasses. Like if you're taking care of your family, if you're taking care of an animal, if you work from home, if you work in an office, think about the day breakdown. So that's a very, very, very big chunk of time if you think about it. So that's important. That's very important. And I hope that as you start to be intentional, as you start to prioritize things, your cookware comes to the forefront, and you start to realize, okay, these are the things that I can use to get through tough times, easy times, stressful times, angsty times, all of that, because that's what we need. We need tools. We need to have a toolbox. When I got divorced, I felt like I had nothing. Not physically. I felt emotionally depleted. I felt emotionally robbed. I felt cheated. I felt so many things that are negative. And I went to a group specific, and it was a Christian, like specific divorce group. I won't use the name because I don't think I'm allowed to, but and at first I felt so empowered. I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this. This is great. These people are great. This is awesome. But after it was like a 6-week session, and you do another 6-week session, and there's books, like there's homework, all this kind of stuff. After the first session, and then I met all these people, and there was no one there that looked like me. There was no other Black people. I was like, okay. But I enjoyed it, right? I was like, oh, there's homework. There's something to keep me occupied. So I said, okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do the second semester. So I signed up for the second semester, and that's when the shift happened, because I kept asking the leaders. I was like, hey, like, I need some physical, like real life information on how to cope. And they just kept saying scripture. And that was confusing to me, because again, I'm like, okay, this is a group. Like, this is a group. And it's a pandemic. Like, I got divorced in 2020. But I needed that was one of the rules. You can't talk to people outside of the group. You can't date anybody in the group. Like, it was just all these rules. Like, I couldn't ask anybody for their number because we weren't allowed to talk outside the group. You can talk to the leaders, but you can't talk to your classmates, group mates. So that was very alienating, because I was like, well, if I have a question about the homework, again, I kind of want to get, because the leaders, now mind you, the leaders not only have been divorced, but they've been remarried. Because so I, talked to my parents, and I was like, I know this group is like supposed to be helping me, but they just kept saying, lean on Jesus. And I was like, okay, like, I know, but Jesus made human, like he made people, he made us relationships so that we could have relationships, right? And I have a newborn, and it was just a tough time, y'all. And I stopped going. um, I joined a different group. This one, even though it still was virtual, it was on Facebook, and it was designed for Black women. And um, but I could talk to my group mates. I could talk to people one on one. I actually met a few outside of the group, like, met them in person, like went to lunch and stuff like that. Um, Relationships, human bonds, connections, that's such a real thing. And that's what I was saying. Like, that's what I don't want people to forget. I don't want you to get so wrapped up in what the rules may say, because that group rules were very, very strict and almost cultish in my opinion. And I did not like that. And then I went to a different group, and I'm no longer in that group because, like, I no longer want to talk about just, oh, I'm divorced. No, it's so hard. Oh, my ex is doing this. Because I don't follow what he's doing. I don't think about what he's doing. I live my life. My life is my life, and what we're doing is what we're doing. And again, people who live in that space, that's okay. But my cookware has brought me to where I'm at now, where it's not important. I don't have to have a secret page to follow him or ask people to follow him. So I know what he's doing, and keeping up and keeping tabs, because I got to go to court and I need evidence, and all that's to the left. So thank God and praise God. Um, but that's why it's so important that we recognize if something's not working. Like, you have to see it for what it is. And it's scary. It's a process. It's challenging. And people who are in those groups or in those circles will be like, that's not really what's happening. Because that's what I was told. Well, we just want you to focus on what the scripture says. And I understand that that's what the purpose of the group was. But if I'm saying I need this, Shay Renee needs this specific thing to cope. I need this specific thing to get through this assignment. Why am I being denied that? And it's their group, so they can deny it to me, right? They make the rules. But then it's my decision on what I'm going to stay with. It's my choice and my decision on if this is good for me or not. And it wasn't good for me. So that's why having cookware that we can use is so important. It's so important. And it's important that even it changes. We don't keep the same Tupperware you use for a couple months. When you put some spaghetti in it and then it makes the orange ring, you throw it out, right? You have some Pyrex, or you have some non-stick cookware. But after a while, that non-stick film starts to come up, and what do? You got to throw it out. Or you're looking at QVC and you see this Gordon Ramsay cook set, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to have it, right? He's Gordon Ramsay. And what do? We order something new and we bring something new in. Our pantries never look the same. You see a new snack, you bring a new snack in. Some snacks were old and stale. You got to throw them out. Baby, somebody might be allergic to something. We're constantly changing them. That's what's so important about life, and that's what's so incredible. Also, is that the adaptability of human beings is ever, like, it's always there. And that's what we have to do. We have to be fluid. We have to be able to change. We have to be able to adapt. We have to be able to go with the flow. And maybe that's something that you want to add to your pantry. You want to get a piece of cookware that's like that. And you can do it. Are you going to get in a book? You're going to find a new friend? You're going to get in a group? I don't know. But I do know that I have enjoyed this episode, and I'm so thankful for this platform. I want you to leave you with it. I want you to remember that dessert is always the reward, no matter what. And I hope that you will like, follow, subscribe. We're on TikTok, the Snickerdoodle Chronicles, on Twitter, Chronic Snicker, and of course YouTube at the Snickerdoodle Chronicles. My name is Shay Renee, and it's been a pleasure yet again to be your host.